Years on the road with him. We started the Jerry Garcia Band just by chance. And so what we've been doing, my dear friend Roger, who is the leader of Moonalice, has brought me back on the road, and I use this opportunity to tell you guys personal inside stories of our life with the Grateful Dead that no one has ever heard before. If you want to hear them, may I tell you some? Well, and so I've been going through everybody and their dogs is where we left off in Flagstaff last night. Every one of the band members had very unusual dogs. But tonight I want to talk about something else. The first international, real, bona fide dope dealer, smuggling guy that ever lived. And his real name, and don't you guys tell anybody else, even though it doesn't matter because he's dead now. His name was Ken Connell, but we all called him Goldfinger. And Goldfinger was a real character, man. He was the first guy to fly all the way to Turkey in private planes and bring hashish to the Haight-Ashbury. And we loved him dearly. And of course, Augustus Stanley Owsley, who brought LSD to the streets of America through a belief in something that was happening another time in another place. We're very good friends with him, and so we knew him. And so I want to just tell you a story to illustrate who he was and how much he loved the Grateful Dead. We were doing a show at the Carousel Ballroom. And that night, now in those days there was no catering, there was no food at the show, there was nothing. But there was one bottle of apple juice. And somebody put a big handful of orange Owsley tabs in that apple juice. And everybody drank out of it. We were pretty loaded. Well, here comes Ken into the place, and he had just come from one of his nefarious missions, and he landed in Nosfield in Nevada, getting out of his own private plane, and he was in such a hurry to get down to the Carousel Ballroom, he walked into the prop of the plane, and it sliced a section of his skull right here, took the skin and part of his head off. And he put his hand up, and it cut his hand off, his left hand, right at the wrist. Ken went to Marin General Hospital. They wrapped his hand and cauterized it somehow in those days. This is 1969. And he wrapped his head. Somehow the bleeding was slowing down, and he came to the show. And my God, Ken, half of you's missing. What happened, you know?
What was the date of that show?
It was at the Carousel Ballroom. It was the summer of 1968, okay? Okay, Sam, is that enough for you, Sam? Sam, I think you need to open your mind to this story. Now you don't do that to me, see? Now we're in a whole other world. So anyway, Goldfinger, then right after that, he got in a lot of trouble, and we didn't see him again until we were in Europe, not in 1972, but in 74. He was on the run all that time. And he was well connected with us because Rock Scully raised his kids. Because Rock's wife, Nikki, was Goldfinger's girl at that time. But that's another story. And one thing I'm going to tell you also is about Ken Kesey and the Pranksters, and they opened up a whole other world of characters that joined with our characters, and we had nothing but characters. And I'm going to get on to this thing, but right now I'm going to tell you one thing. When you went into Ken Kesey's living room, he had auditorium seats in a square and a wrestling mat on the floor right in the living room of his house. And that tells you something right there, right? And his dog, Stuart, his teeth were worn down from fetching stones. They threw stones, and that dog had all worn down teeth. And he had a parrot that was over 100 years old that bit Jerry Garcia and every one of us. And now, ladies and gentlemen, please lend your ears to Moonalice. Steve Parish.
Hey everybody. Thank you all for coming out.